Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ray, and I've been a pastor here for a few years. I'm so glad you're with us. Before I start into our series, we've been in the middle of a series called Pursued. I want to do a couple things that are kind of housekeeping things. The first one is that in your bulletin, you got one of these. It looks like this. And in 2 weeks, October 5th, we are going to be celebrating our 30-year anniversary. Can you believe that? 30-year anniversary. That's exciting times for us here. And we have a special service planned that weekend. We're going to have Timothy James Meany. Some of you guys know him. He's a kind of mini celebrity around the area. He's a worship leader. He's going to be coming to lead worship for us that weekend. We're also going to have Vanessa Love, who has one of the best voices you've ever heard. And she's going to be leading the choir in this amazing song for us. And then we also have Ron Wilburn. He's a pastor at Saddleback, one of the largest churches in America, with Rick Warren. And he's going to be here sharing as well, and how he started and met faith and started walking with God here at our church 20-something years ago. So it's going to be a great weekend. So put that on your calendar, October 5th, our anniversary. Then, that's one thing. The second thing I want to do is let you know about our small groups. I got a little video we're going to show now. They're going to get that ready for you. And as they do that, I'm going to ask Elise to come up. She's going to share a couple things as well. So this is a short video that just explains what we believe is going to happen as we all plug into these small groups. So you're going to be able to tell about your life, your family, your faith as you plug into small groups. So in your bulletin, you might have one of these, or if not, they're in the back. And we have a list of 30, 40-something small groups that you guys can think about, pray about joining. We really do believe that's where the rubber hits the road. Rows are great, but circles are better. And we think that starting this week, hundreds of us are going to be meeting around the city in these small groups, just talking, asking questions, living life together. And I invite you to consider joining one of these small groups. If you want to, go to the Connection Center right in the middle of the foyer, and you can look through the catalog and find out. Let us know. We'll love to plug you in. And if you don't like any of our groups, that's fine. Start your own group. We're going to be writing lessons. You can use them, act like they're your own, and just start your own group with your family. We will love for you to do that, something to pray about. We're starting a new small group for mothers, and since I'm not qualified to speak on behalf of mothers, I asked my wife, who is qualified to speak on behalf of mothers, to come and share about this new group. So, Elise, would you share?
Thank you. As many of you know, we have a toddler and a 7-year-old. And I have a special place in my heart for moms with young children because it's kind of a challenging time and a hairy, frazzled time. And so we're starting this group that has childcare provided by WOW. And it's Wednesday mornings, and the moms are going to go out for coffee and support and encourage one another. So if you know someone who is a mom of young children who needs something like this, Mom's Day Out, it's called, find me after the service, and I have a flyer for it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then I'm going to start a support group for husbands who have kids as well. Just kidding. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. In our church, we do series. So this is part 3 of a 4-part series that we're in. It's kind of like walking in the middle of a movie. You missed the first half. Don't sweat it. We're going to catch you up, and we'll all be on the same page by the end of it. So in Paris, France, there's this museum. It's a famous museum. It's the world's largest museum. It's called the Louvre, I believe. I'm bad at pronouncing it. Actually, someone here speaks French, but anyways. Louvre, I think, right? And in this museum, there's over 35,000 pieces of art, works of art, 35,000. To put that in perspective, if you spent 1 minute at each piece of art visiting all of them, and you did this as a full-time job, it would still take you 3 months to see every piece of art they have there. It's just phenomenal. It's massive. They get 15,000 visitors every single day. So every single day, 15,000 people come from around the world to look at the pieces of art, the works of art that they have in this museum, right? Incredible. And then most of the people who come all want to see one work of art. And they'll wait hours. They'll wait for hours just to get a peek, a view from afar of this famous work of art, the Mona Lisa, right? It will never happen because it's owned by the French government. But a few years ago, the Mona Lisa was assessed for how much it would sell, what's its value. And it was assessed at $670 million. That's how much this work of art is worth. Think about that. More than $500 million for a canvas and art that you can buy for $5 at Michael's. How? Why? Why is this specific art piece? Why is it worth so much? Why do we wait for hours to look at this work of art? Here's why. Because the Mona Lisa and all these other paintings that have sold for millions of dollars, they were painted by a master artist. Once in a generation, one of the greatest of all time, Leonardo da Vinci, put his talents, his gifts, his resources, all of it into painting the Mona Lisa. And because it was painted by a master artist, that gives it value. That gives it a price. So even though intrinsically it's really not worth a lot, maybe $10, $15 worth of actual raw material, it's the art piece. It's the master artist that gives it its value. Well, I'm saying all that because there's a poem in the Old Testament written by King David, and he wrote this poem, and he understood something that very few of us ever understand, but it's so powerful. And if we can just get this one thing, it'd be worth the price of admission. And here's what he writes in his poem. He writes a poem, a song that he's talking to God, and here's what he says. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. See, David understood this idea that the same hands that put the stars in the skies, the sun in its place, that created the greatest landscape work of art in the world, those same hands put us together. In fact, he would write in the same song that God used his hands and he knit us. He put us together in our mother's womb. And that means that since God is a master artist, more substantial than any other artist, and since he made us, here's what that means. I am a masterpiece. You are a masterpiece. Every single one of you created in the image of God is a masterpiece. You're a work of art. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and marvelous and wonderful are his works. If God put you together, that means you are priceless. That means you're worth so much more than the Mona Lisa, that you are one of a kind, you're unique, and God himself put you together. That's what David understood. And here's the thing, most of us don't feel that way. Most of us, when we wake up, there's not a line of people who've been waiting for hours just to get a sneak peek at us, right? No one pays to just look at us. We don't feel that way. When we look in the mirror, we don't see a masterpiece. We don't see a work of art, right? We see pimples and balding and all these other things that are happening, and we don't feel like that. And then we live in a culture that tells us we don't matter as much as these celebrities who are talentless, some of them, but they're famous and they're on TMZ and they're on these reality shows, and they matter. They get the news, they get the front page, and the rest of us, we're not that important. We've had voices in our lives. Some of us, maybe teachers or family members or friends of ours who said things to us, and the things they said made us feel small, made us feel invaluable, made us feel like we don't we aren't a masterpiece. So I know that's the case. We don't feel it, but that's what David understood, and that's what the story of Hosea is all about. It's about a God who pursues us, who's dedicated to us. The gospel of Hosea, the story of Hosea presents of God who's not just a boss in the sky. He is a groom who's obsessed with you, in love with you, who made you with his own hands, and because he made you, you are a masterpiece. See, little kids, they might feel that way. If you tell a little kid you're a masterpiece, they're like, I know. But something happens, life. And then if I walked up to you, when we leave today, I've been waiting at the door saying bye to people, and I've been saying, you're a masterpiece, you're a masterpiece. And people just get so uncomfortable when I say that. Because as adults, it's weird when someone calls you a masterpiece. I understand that. But the whole concept that we are priceless is something hard to grasp. But I know it because of what you're worth and what God paid to get a hold of you. He's dedicated to you. He's committed to you. Because you're valuable and you're priceless, God is never going to give up on you. He's never going to turn his back on you. It's going to be a slow process. And here's the beauty of it all. Even though you're already a masterpiece, God's not even done with you yet. He is still working in your life. He still wants to do more. He still wants to shower you with love and grace and forgiveness. He still wants to shape and morph and transform. He is not even close to being done with you yet. It's going to be a long process. It's going to be a slow process. But that's the process God is absolutely committed to. If anyone knows about a slow, long, arduous process, it's Hosea. Because Hosea was asked to do something by God that no one since and no one after has been asked to do. Hosea was asked to go and marry a prostitute. I promise you this will be the last week I talk about prostitution. This normally doesn't happen, okay? Last week. But that's what happened. This is a story that's in the Bible. You probably never learned it in Sunday school, but I'm glad you didn't learn it in Sunday school. If you learned this story in Sunday school, fire that Sunday school teacher. So that's what happened. God said, Hosea, I want you to go and marry this woman who is going to be unfaithful. She's going to cheat on you. She's going to cheat on you again and again and again. You're going to have a family with her. You're going to have kids with her, but she's going to cheat on you and have kids with other guys. I want you, Hosea, to hold that family together and to keep loving her and forgiving her and being faithful to her. And Hosea says, why, God? Why would you have me do this? And God says, because I want your relationship with your wife to mirror my relationship with the people of Israel. And even though Israel has worshiped other gods, even though they've worshiped other idols, even though Israel has been unfaithful to me, I will pursue them and keep being faithful to them. That's how much I love them. Crazy story. It's in the Bible, like I mentioned, and we'll see that from this story comes this incredible picture of God's love for us, his pursuit of us. That God is a God who pursues us, pursues his people. Even when we walk away, even when we turn our back on him, even when we get comfortable in the garbage and in all sorts of horrible things, it doesn't matter. God is completely dedicated and pursuing us. And for the rest of your life, tomorrow, next day, next year, next decade, it doesn't matter. As long as there is air in your lungs, God will be pursuing you. And that's what this story is all about. And what I want to do is I want to take a step back and look at this story through the lenses of love. Imagine this was a romantic comedy or an epic love story that we told, right? How would this story play out if it was a love story? And I want you to see what's happening through this idea of love. Because here's what happens. Here's our summary. Hosea obeys God. He goes into the seedy part of town, the bad part of town, the red light district, and he marries this woman, Gomer, who is a prostitute. And he takes her away from that lifestyle and puts her in her home, and he loves her and is faithful to her, and they have children together, and then she begins to be unfaithful. And she cheats on him, and she goes back to her old life. And then he goes and gets her back, and she does it again. And she keeps going back and forth until finally one day she is gone, and she is not coming back. And at that point in the story, when all hope is lost for Gomer, grace steps in, this idea that it doesn't matter where you're at or what you've done, God cannot possibly love you any more than he already does. And there's absolutely nothing you can do to make God love you any less. So at that point, God says, Hosea, I want you to go and I want you to find Gomer, locate her. And when you find her, I want you to love her. Bring her back, restore her, heal her. Why? Because that is how much I love my people, and that is what I'm going to do with them. So that's where the story's at right now. This is where we're going to pick up the story. So in Hosea chapter 3, verse 1, there's the verses are going to be up on the PowerPoint, or you got a handout in your bulletin. So here's what happens. The Lord said to me, Hosea, go and show your love to your wife again, though she is loved by another man and is an adulteress. So even though she's in garbage, she's been unfaithful, even though she's done these horrible things, Hosea, go and love her. Love her as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they have turned to other gods. So what happened at this point? Does Hosea say, no thanks. I've already given her 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chances. It's enough chances. He doesn't say that. He says, okay. And he goes back into town and he looks for her. He goes back to that red light district where he first found her. He goes back there and he finds her. And at this point in the story, Gomer has done things. She's lived a life that she can no longer escape. You'll see in a second that she's in this position of slavery. She's owned by somebody. And she, even if she wanted to leave, even if she wanted to escape, she couldn't any longer. So Hosea meets with her owner, her boss, whoever owns her, and he has to negotiate a price for her. And he comes to agreed upon price, and he pays the price. So you'll see in verse 2 it says, so I bought her back. Well, how much did she cost? Well, he tells us, I bought her back for 15 pieces of silver and 5 bushels of barley and a measure of wine. You add that up, and do you know what that equals? That equals the normal price of a slave in the ancient world. So scholars, academics have said that in this timeline, this culture, in this context, when there were slaves, if you wanted to buy a slave, this was what it would cost. It would cost you these bushels of barley. It would cost you 15 pieces of silver. And that's what culture, that's what her owner, that's what the society said Gomer's was worth. I love how it says at the end of it, and a measure of wine. It's like they're negotiating. And the guy said, okay, here's what it costs, and you got to throw in a beer for me. If you throw that in, I'll give it to you. And that's what happened, a measure of wine, and he buys her. And that's how much society said Gomer was worth. So imagine Gomer now. She looks in the mirror. Do you think she sees a masterpiece? Do you think she sees a work of art? Do you think she sees someone who is fearfully and wonderfully made? Do you think she sees someone who deserves love and commitment and adoration? Probably not, right? That's probably not how she feels. She's just been bought out of sexual slavery. She doesn't feel like that. All the voices, all her reality, all her experiences tell her she's worth the price of a slave, that she is worthless, that she's trash, that she doesn't deserve any of this love and goodness that God is showing her. But look at this through love. From Hosea's point of view, look how much Hosea loves Gomer. That after everything he has done for her, pursued her, loved her, given her chance after chance, he's willing to go into this bad part of town and to buy her back. And it didn't matter what the price was. If it was the price of 1 slave, if the price of 100 slaves, I bet you Hosea would have bought her back. Because Hosea knows everything Gomer's done wrong. He can probably recite the laws she's broken, but in Hosea's mind, it doesn't matter. I'm going to love her. And he loves her. And there's a picture in all of this. And it's a picture of the word redemption. Redemption. That's a rich, beautiful word. And literally what it means to buy back. So Hosea literally redeemed Gomer because he bought Gomer back. He buys back Gomer. She's in this helpless, hopeless situation. He comes in and he pays the price for Gomer to bring her back to us. And this whole story of Hosea has been a foreshadow, has been pointing to what would God do for us in Jesus Christ. Because the way the New Testament explains it is that we were like Gomer. We fell off the path. We walked away from God. We were unfaithful. Sin kept us helpless, hopeless. Lots of times throughout the New Testament, it says that we humans are slaves to sin. And that when God sent his son, he redeemed us. He paid our price. He paid the debt we had accumulated. He bought us back. In fact, Galatians 4:4, which is one of my favorite passages, says this, that when the set time had fully come, God sent his son, Jesus, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem, to buy back, to rescue, to save, to heal, to restore those under the law. Who are those under the law? You and me. That's what God did. Why? That we might receive adoption. God would rescue us from this horrible situation and brought us to him to integrate us into his family, to be in relationship with us. And that is perfect love. That is absolute love. That's grace. That's the gospel. It's not just that God saved me, it's that God found me in the worst state imaginable. He loved me, he bought me, and then he integrated me. He invited me to be part of his family. And that's perfect love. I mean, think about that. That's why I know you're priceless. Even though you don't feel it, even though other people might argue with me, you're priceless because of how much you cost. You cost so much more than a slave. You cost so much more than the Mona Lisa. You cost so much more than $500 million. The price God paid for you was a son, the life of his son. For God so loved the world, he sent his son to redeem us, to rescue us. That's why I know you're a work of art. Because think about the love it takes for Hosea, who knows every single weakness, every single thing she's done wrong, and still buys her. And that's what God would do for us. God knows us completely. He knows our weaknesses. He knows our faults. He knows our bad habits. He knows where we struggle with, what our identity. He knows all of that. And despite how we might see that, when God looks at us, he doesn't see the price of a slave, someone who's worthless. He sees a work of art. He sees a work of art that he is working in. He sees someone who is priceless beyond compare. There's this really beautiful quote in this book called The Meaning of Marriage by Timothy Keller. And in it, he talks about what it means to be loved by God with this perfect love. Here's what he says. To be loved but not known is comforting but superficial. To be known and not loved is our greatest fear. See, he's arguing that in a sense, for most of us, it's easier for people to know us but not know everything and love us. And that's superficial. It's good, but it's superficial. Because our greatest fear is that people would see us, would know us completely. And once they saw our faults and our weaknesses, our bad habits, our personality flaws, they would say, no, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. I reject you. I deny you. But to be fully known and truly loved is a lot like being loved by God. See, that's what it means to be loved by God, by God's perfect love, is that he knows us completely, all of our weaknesses, everything, and he still loves us. He still buys us back. He still invites us to be part of the family. And that's the gospel. That's the good news. That's perfect love. He's not ashamed by us. He's not embarrassed by us. A few weeks ago, I went to the zoo with my family for my birthday, and something crazy happened. They have this indoor play area now that's kids like a playground indoors, and that's what an indoor playground is, in case you didn't know. But there's this, and then there's hundreds of kids there. They're all playing in there, and my son is playing there. And then at my corner of my eye, I saw that there was like this something happening where all the parents were like doing a mad dash to get their kids, and I was wondering what's going on. Is something unsafe? Is something breaking? What's going on? And I went over there to see what was going on, and I saw what the problem was. there was this little boy, must have been 4 or 5, who he had gone to the bathroom, I guess, somewhere, and no one was around, so he came back out, and he was completely naked. And he was just playing in the playground completely naked. And that's not the worst part of it, is that he had gone to the bathroom, but he hadn't cleaned himself up. So he was a complete mess everywhere. His hands, his feet, his body were just a mess. So imagine the parents, this little boy is oblivious. He could care less. He's saying hi, trying to give high fives. And the parents are like trying to get their kids, get away from him, get away from him. He, like, trying to avoid him like the plague, right? And I understand. I wanted to get Elijah away from him before he made friends. And then after a while, you know, the bosses, whoever was in charge, came out and they kind of isolated the boy. And there was a big crowd watching to try to figure out what is going on. And then the boss said, "Where are the parents at? Who are the parents of this kid?" And no one said anything, right? And then that made me think. I know, it made me think. I wonder if maybe the parents are gone. Maybe they left the kid. They're looking at the lions or something, oblivious to what their son's doing. Or maybe the mom and dad are there, but they're embarrassed. And I started wondering, what would I do if that was Elijah running around naked, covered in mess, and they said, "Where are the parents?" Would I say, "Here I am, that's me, I'm the proud father of that boy"? Or would I wait a little bit? Would I wait until people left and then be like, "Oh, I'm the dad, but or would I just sit at least you gotta go. I can't deal with this." I don't know. And of course I would claim my son, he's my son, but at the same time, I would think about it and I would probably delay a little bit, right? Pretend like I'm deaf. Anyways, that whole thing happened as I'm working on this message, and I'm thinking, man, isn't that the perfect image of God where he sees us and we're that little kid in our mess, in our sin, and he's not embarrassed. He's proud of us, and he's not ashamed. He gets us. He rescues us. He cleans us up because he's not ashamed. He's not embarrassed by us. He loves us with this perfect love. So then Hosea gets Gomer, buys her, and they come back home. And now the kids are there, the dad is there, the mom is there, and Hosea says, "Okay, we're back together." And he has a request of Gomer. And it's the first request he's made in this whole story. And here's what he says, verse 3:3. "You are to live with me many days, and you must not be a prostitute or be intimate with any man, and I will behave the same way towards you." So this is a broken, dysfunctional family, right? If there ever was one. This is going to be a slow, long process. It's been infidelity. It's going to be hard. And Hosea is saying, "Hey, Gomer, I love you with a perfect love. After everything you've gone through, I've pursued you, I've chased you, I've been after you, I've forgiven you hundreds, thousands of times, and I've bought you now. And now I'm asking one thing of you. I want you to love me. I don't want you to go back to that lifestyle. I don't want you to get caught up in the garbage again. I want you to stay out of that. I want you to love me." And you can't quite see it in the English language, but in the original text, it's very similar to him renewing vows. Like when we get married, we have renewing of the vows. That's what he's saying. It's like Hosea is renewing the vows with Gomer and saying, "I'm asking you to be faithful. I will honor you. I will love you. I will be faithful." But what the clincher is this, that he doesn't make this an if-and clause. It's not like Hosea is not saying, "If you're faithful, then I will be faithful." It's not mutually exclusive like that. He is saying, "I'm going to be faithful no matter what. I'm always going to be pursuing you. I'm always going to be loving you. I'm asking you to come and be faithful to me." And this is the hard part of the relationship, right? This is where most of us live our Christianity, where we've been talking about God doesn't want a religious people. He doesn't want religion. He wants a relationship with us. That's what we've been talking about. But what does that look like? What does it mean to love your God with all your heart? And for most of us, we say, okay, God loves us. He gives us grace. Now I got to try harder. Now I got to be good. Now I got to walk the straight and narrow path, right? So this is where I got this object lesson. I hope you guys can see this because it's a little bit low. But I got a balance beam here, right? You can see it. It's like a 2x4 being held up. And I'm going to try to show you guys something, right? I'm not even going to attempt to walk it. But just imagine that I'm walking it. Imagine that I'm up here. This is how most of us live our Christianity, right? We get up here. I'm not going to try. But we get up there. we get up there and then we start walking. Okay, God, I'm going to try to be good. I'm trying not to fall. There's temptation over here. Oh, I hope I don't fall that way. There's problems over here. There's habits. I hope I don't fall that way. And we're like, man, do we really have to do this again? Because Gomer's going to say, I tried being good. I tried being faithful. It's hard. It's difficult. I'm going to fall. But now something is different. After all of this, Gomer has experienced perfect love. And that perfect love has upheld her, is going to create this safe, secure environment for her to grow and to change. And God is going to do the same thing with us. Because like I said, you're a masterpiece, but he's not done with you. And he's not going to leave you how he found you. He's going to work in you and ask for change and convict and clean up and do all these things. But it's not going to be challenging like this. It's not going to be dependent on you. Because his perfect love is going to uphold you. Because this is difficult. And this is a picture of religion. And what God is inviting us to do is to rest in the relationship. And as difficult as this is, what if this 2x4, this balance beam, what if this was on the floor? Sorry. But what if this was on the floor like this? Wouldn't it be a lot easier for me? Like now I'll attempt it. I'm not scared. I can walk across like this. And it's easier, right? And if I make a mistake and I fall, well, guess what? I got this floor representing God's perfect love that's going to uphold me. So it's going to be hard. God's going to work in your life. He's going to challenge you. He's going to convict you. And sometimes you're going to fall and you're going to fail and you're going to make mistakes. That's going to happen to every single one of us. It's inevitable. But you're loved with the perfect love. And when you fall, God's there not to kick you when you're down or to judge you. He's there to uphold you, to lift you up. So this message of Hosea, it's really about God's perfect love that holds our life together, even when everything seems like it's falling apart. That's what happened to Gomer. That's what God's inviting you to. So what happens? What happens in this story? We see that Gomer comes back home, they have the talk, and we have no idea. Do they live happily ever after? Do they work it out? Does she go back? Does she cheat on him? We have no idea. This is where the story ends. But we do know this, that this story isn't really about Hosea and Gomer. It's really about God and us, and how God is inviting us into a relationship based on grace. There's nothing we can do to earn or work for it or deserve it. It's all God's doing. And it's surrounded and protected and secured by his love, his perfect love that holds us up. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. We're going to have days that are harder than others. But God is completely committed to finishing what he started in you. My son just started first grade, and now the homework load's a little bit higher. I've been telling people this, and I'm trying to do the homework with him. And every week he says, this is why I don't like school, because they give me homework. And I explained to him, Elijah, you need to do your homework if you're going to pass first grade. Because then if you don't pass first grade, you won't get to second grade, you won't get to third grade, you won't get to college, you won't get a job, and you'll live with us the rest of your life, right? And his first response was like, awesome, this is great. That's exactly what I want. I'm going to stop going to school. I don't have to go anymore. And I said, no, you don't understand, Elijah. God has a plan for you. And I'm trying to rethink my strategy as I'm having this conversation with him. And I finally said, okay, here's the thing, Elijah. I need you to do this. I know that in the long run, you need to do your homework if you're going to be successful in school. And then if you don't do your homework, there's going to be a consequence. I'm going to take away your video games. And that's like dropping the atomic bomb in our house, right? You can't take away video games. It hurts him. It hurts me. It hurts everyone. So I'm like, but if you don't do your homework, I'll take it away for a day. And he's like, okay, fine. I'll lose it for a day. Fine. I'm a young parent. My strategy is to up the ante until we play poker, right? Who's going to flinch first? Okay, fine. You lose it for a whole week. All right, I'm fine with that too. Fine. You won't eat for a whole week. I don't say that, obviously. I don't say food, but I've thought it before, but I've never done it. So eventually he says, okay, fine. I'll do the homework. And he's mad. He's upset. But I'm doing this because as a father, I know long term, this is going to be a long process, and school's going to be hard. He's going to have to take tests. I want him to do well. He's going to fail some. He's going to do good in others. And I know that he needs to at least try. And I'm going to support him. If he gets an F, I'm not kicking him out the house as a first grader. It's going to be when he's 18, I'll wait. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be a process, but I'm committed to him. And I want him to feel safe and secure to try to walk because we as parents are committed to him. God is completely committed to this process in your life. It is going to be hard. He wants to change some things that are going to stretch you. He's going to ask you to stop doing things that you love doing but are hurting you. He's going to ask you to do things that are just going to make you uncomfortable because God is completely committed to the process of making you into the person he designed you to be, into that work of art, that masterpiece. And here's the beautiful part. This is the good news that we'll end on. In Philippians, Paul says this, I know this, that God finishes what he starts. Here's how he puts it. I am certain that God, who began the good work, the work of art, the masterpiece within you, will continue his work until it's finally finished. He's not going to stop working on you. He's not going to give up on you. He's never going to turn his back on you. He's not going to walk away from you. God is going to pursue you, and that's the story of Hosea. See, the Bible's not really about our pursuit of God. The Bible's really about God's pursuit of us. His endless obsession, his divine obsession with each and every single one of us. Your masterpiece, to be louder and stronger and deeper and to resonate more profoundly than any other voice you've had speak other garbage into your life. So I'm going to ask you to just take some time this week to memorize this verse. That's how we're going to close. We're going to say this verse together. I want you knowing you are a masterpiece. You're a work of art. You were made by the same hands that made the universe, and God's not giving up on you. So would you stand with me? And I'm going to count to 3, and we're going to say Psalms 139:14 together. All right? Here I go. 1, 2, 3. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. Sorry, I messed that up. All right. When you leave today, you need to look at someone right in their eyes, someone, hopefully a stranger you never met before, and say, you are a masterpiece. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do it to someone you love, though. Let me just say a quick prayer for us and we can leave. Father, I thank you so much because of this story you put in the Bible thousands of years ago that today would speak to us. That you are a God who pursues us with this reckless abandonment, this absolutely perfect love, a God who is never, ever going to throw in the white towel on us, never going to give up on us, never going to walk away from us. It's a picture of a God who loves us, and that love upholds us, inspires us, challenges us, but also keeps us walking the right path. Father, would you help us when we walk out of here, know without a shadow of a doubt that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, that your works are wonderful, they're marvelous, they're works of art, and that's what we are.